Hey everyone, welcome to another Discount Ted video. Today we're going to do something I've never done before. We're going to learn together, and I'm going to replace and rebuild a brake caliper on my 1994 Nissan Safari. So, done plenty of brake jobs before, but I've got a sticky brake caliper on this front right caliper. In the past, or for other vehicles where parts are more readily available, I've always just bought a rebuilt caliper and replaced it. But these are a little bit hard to find, and we're going to have to improvise and learn. So I've got some of my basic tools already set out here. I've got to get the car jacked up, and I will need an air compressor for this job. I'll go grab the rest of my hand tools out, and we'll get started. Okay, little update. So we've got the Safari jacked up. You can see I left the jack under there for security, but we've got jack stands under the axle, so we just went straight under the axle, jacked it up, got our wheel off, and now we're looking at our brakes here. So, eventually, I'm going to want to replace my rotors as well, but I haven't been able to source them as easily as I would like. But for today, we're just going to be focused on the caliper and rebuilding it itself. So, let's see, how are we going to attack this first? The first area. Okay, so here from the top, you can see this bolt here we're going to take off to get the caliper released from this like under part. And then there's a bolt back here. Hopefully the lighting picks it up. Yeah, right there. And that's going to remove the hole carrier from it. We're going to have to take off our brake line right back here, and it's going to drain quite a bit of fluid. So we're going to start by taking probably the brake line off first, and I'm going to see if I can set up a camera that you can see what I'm doing in here. Alright, so we're going to start by taking off this brake line. I've got my big old jug for waste brake fluid. How do you tell if someone has track cars? They've got a big old jug of waste brake fluid. So I'm going to kind of finagle it under here, try not to mess with the jack stand too much. And I've got some open end wrenches. Let's see what size that is. Looks like it's probably not a 14. Yeah, probably a 13. Yeah, there we go. So, it shouldn't be on there too terribly tight. Geez, actually, is that a 12 instead of a 13? Yeah. Okay. Maybe I want to get a socket just to be able to get a better reach on it, but I'll try this first. Okay, we're going to try a socket. Okay. Holy moly, that's on there good. Alright. I shouldn't be surprised by that being so tight. Every bolt I've touched on this car has been over tight. So, we'll see if I can break this like so. I don't want to bust out a 3/4 on something like this, but we'll see. There we go. Got some motion. And now we're loose. Okay. So, if you're following along at home, they don't need to be that tight. And there's no way I'm going to get that into my waste oil. So, I'm going to grab a different collection method. I think that'll work. There we go. Trying to back this bolt all the way out. if you aren't planning on flushing your brake fluid entirely, you will likely want to pinch off this this line. I'm going to flush my brake fluid entirely, so I don't really care if it drips, but that's not what most people would do here. Most people would grab, like a piece of cardboard or something to help insulate against this line, and then some vice grips and go over it, and that'll just pinch it off. But I'm going to have to bleed the brakes anyway because of rebuilding the caliper here, and I don't know when the last time this had a full brake flush, so it's just due. So now that we've got that disconnected, now we're going to start on these bolts here. I anticipate them to be a challenge, and we'll see if I'm right. So I've used the term eating the frog before to mean I'm going to try the harder one first. This bottom one definitely looks harder, especially with this like steering, whatever this is, I don't know, steering arm right here in the way. I'm probably gonna have to move my bucket, and man, I'm not sure what the easiest way to attack that's gonna be. Because getting a socket on there means I'm gonna have to go all the way through here. That's probably the route to go. So I'm gonna end up blocking a camera angle and pulling that thing out of there, and probably just having brake fluid drip on me. So, say lovey, that's the way it is. Okay. It is a 17 millimeter. At least we know that now. So, all right. I'm back with a new tool and a new tactic here. So I'm going to take some advice from another car YouTuber, the Car Wizard, and you look at the angle you look at the problem from a different angle. And here I can see I can get my 17 on through here with this long extension, a little bit of a wobbly there, and knowing how much of a pain these have been and how tight everything's been, over tight everything's been, I'm just going to go ahead and use an impact right away. I'm not going to mess around. So, got it locked on there, and we'll loosen it. There it is. Oh, hang on. There we go. Come on, guy. Man. All right, there's no reason for something like that to be that tight. So, yay to whoever worked on this last. I guess I'm going to try a breaker bar. I really don't want to try heat. But in desperate times, you get desperate measures. Yeah. All right. Breaker bar. See if I can be stronger than an impact gun. Okay. Okay, we're back, and what we learned is that I am in fact stronger than a impact gun. It's also a couple things we learned, I suppose. Don't mess around with 15-year-old cordless impact guns. Just get yourself a good air impact gun if you've got an air compressor, which I have. I just loaned it to a friend. So anyway, we are still leaking brake fluid out here, but we've now got that loose, and I can get it the rest of the way out, hopefully by finger. Truthfully, it was too tight. It shouldn't have needed a breaker bar, but it wasn't so tight you need an impact. But hang on, I'm gonna go get some rubber gloves, something that fits in there a little bit tighter. Hello. Okay. So again, I'm just gonna get the bottom one out first. It's easier than trying to get the top out while this thing's hanging around. I wish I had a 17 open end over here. It'd be easier than doing this with my finger, I think. But then I get annoyed by having to reset it. Really trying to limit the amount of brake fluid I'm losing randomly, but at some point, just got to get this thing out. So, perfect. Okay. Great. Now then, we've got both of those out. We've got the brake line disconnected. This whole thing should just slide off is the goal here. Yeah. So sometimes you have to use like a little pry bar just to get it unwedged. I'm hopeful I can just pull it off, but we'll see. Hey, there we go. All right. And we have our brake caliper off. I want to pull these pads out. So the whole reason for doing this rebuild in transparency is that this brake caliper is dragging just a little bit, and it's time to rebuild it. This thing's old and crusty, probably never been rebuilt in the past. So I want to pull these pads out. They actually look like they have plenty of life left. So I caught this before it turned into real problems. But I'm not going to be able to put this whole thing back together with the pads still in there. So I got to get them out. It looks like these clips are what's holding them in. So let's grab a little screwdriver and clip those out. Let me see. Let me see if this little wrench will get the clip out. Nope, but it'll mess it up. Okay, little screwdriver. We got our persuaders here. I want to be careful to not pry against the rotor itself. I don't want to damage the rotor here since I'm definitely reusing that. I'm reusing these pads too, which is not ideal. I mean, if you're doing a caliper rebuild, you should get new pads, but theme of this vehicle is that getting parts is harder than it should be. So you may be wondering, if you've seen my other videos, hey, why are you trying to get this front one out first? Since you say always eat the frog, take the hard one. This one I can see and I can figure out, and hopefully it's the same on the other side. So yeah, they're just really tight on that thing. I think these clips are supposed to come out with it, and they're not. It's moving on it. Yeah, I think they're supposed to slide right past it, but it's just kind of rusty and tight. So You know what? I'm going to leave them there. We're just going to move on to rebuilding this caliper here. Reason being, these are already worn down just a little bit. So when I rebuild this caliper and it's all the way pressed out, I shouldn't have any problems. So let's start rebuilding the caliper. I'm going to put down, I don't know what I'm going to put down. Probably some, probably a cardboard box. And start taking this apart, start looking at my rebuild kit. Hopefully before I get it too taken apart, I can identify if I've got the right stuff. Ugh. Holy moly. Alright, we got a new camera angle, we got our caliper in a box. I've got my new rebuild kit, so let's look at what we have here. We have a new dust seal, a second new dust seal, our internal seals, a new bleeder screw, new like slide boots, new slide boot, another slide boot piece. See how that works. Two new pistons, cap for the bleeder, and unnamed liquid, probably just some assembly lube. So I'm going to put this stuff back in, that back in, that back in the box, set that aside. Let's start by, I suppose really the first thing we want to do is get these, well, the first thing I want to do is to get this old bleeder screw out. So we got a little open end wrench. It's probably, I think it's smaller than a 10. Huh, it's a 10. All right. Criminy. Everything's so tight. You know what? I know this is garbage, this part I'm taking off right now, but I still don't like breaking stuff, so I'm going to put a socket and a deep well 10mm on it. Got a deep well 10mm so that I'm not right on top of the thing. That's tightening. That's loosening. Okay. Get it on there. All right. So, you know, if you're one of those people that just tightens the ever-living crap out of stuff, this is the stuff you have to deal with later. So just don't, okay? Hopefully, if this damaged anything, it's just the bleeder itself and not the threads in there to where my new bleeder has to be super tight to not leak. But it shouldn't have to be. Yeah. Alright. Old bleeder out. New bleeder going in. So, the most challenging part of this whole, well, that it's a different size. That's the most challenging part. No. The most challenging part of a caliper rebuild is getting the pistons out. So what we're going to do is use a air compressor with about 50 to 60 pounds of pressure and a chuck, and I'm going to go right in the hole where the brake fluid goes in. That's an 11. This 12 is working, but that's an 11 on this rebuild kit. And what's going to happen is I'm going to put air in through here, and I'm going to put a little piece of like cardboard, maybe, yeah, something like that. And it's going to push these pistons out. The real challenging part for me is I'm going to have to pay attention to how everything comes out, because I got to try and put it back together the exact same way. So You do need an air compressor for this job. That's probably the biggest barrier of entry of rebuilding your own calipers. Otherwise, most of these hand tools people have around. I've had to break out a few things because stuff's over tight. You might not have a breaker bar or what have you, but most people on reasonable tightnesses, you can go ahead and get this done with just regular hand tools, regular socket set, and screwdrivers. So set this aside, pull this out, get the air compressor ready, and we're gonna really blow some stuff up here. Okay, so we're back with my air chuck. I've got about 60 psi going behind there. Hopefully the thing doesn't kick on and make a ton of noise. So if you notice, when I took apart everything, there wasn't a new one of these. So this is going to go back in the caliper. And I've got a little cardboard here. Hopefully it pops out and doesn't go all the way out to there, but we'll see. Let me make this a little easier for myself to work. There we go. And let's see how this works, guys. I've never done it. Well, that's annoying that one went out and the other didn't. Crap. How do we get the other one out? What do you guys think? Let me try putting this back in. Okay, so I've got the first dust seal out. You can see there's kind of a ledge here that was underneath the lip, so we know which way that goes. Then I see this other seal inside there. Hopefully this is coming through, but you can see that black seal there. That's what my other seal must be. So I'm going to try, now that I've got that dust shield out of the way, I'm going to try sliding this back in, see if I can find a way to kind of hold it in so that the other one comes out. Okay, so I'm going to grab a clamp this there. I think that's going to be my best bet. Hopefully it still holds air pressure. Alright, we're back with more tools. This time a woodworker's clamp, but that should hopefully work. So probably take my tag off of it. I promise it's not brand new. I've actually used it once before. So put this in like so. Okay. Now hopefully that'll let us get this other one out. Nope, air's just blowing out past it. Cripes. Actually, that's just for dust. That's not airtight. That won't matter. No, that clamp's not strong enough to hold that in, huh? Let's see. Well, the next thing I can do, now I've kind of got this reinstalled here. You can see there's a little lip under the where the dust boot goes. I have a new dust boot, so I can destroy this dust boot and then use pry tool, like a screwdriver, to try and pry this guy out. I think that's my best bet. So let's try that. Just want to get this dust boot out so I can see what I'm doing. Okay. I'm beginning to really fear that this thing is rusted in there solid. So the only thing I can think to get it out is going to be like more pressure, or maybe some sort of puller, like a like they make pullers that'll like latch into a groove and have bolts on the other side that suck it in. I don't have one of those though, and I'm not sure I want to go get one. So I'm going to keep thinking here. Okay, well, we're going to try something I'm not in love with. So I've done a couple things here. I've reinstalled the old piston. I've reinstalled the old bleeder screw really tight. And I've got my air compressor now set at 100 psi instead of 50. So looking at this, I'm pretty confident that we now know our issue with why I needed to rebuild these. Is that this piston, I believe, is just rusted solid in there. The most likely case of what I'm about to try here is that it makes no difference. But the worst case is this thing kind of explodes. So, and the best case is that it actually breaks this loose and it pops out for us. So, in that best case, I'll put a little something here just so it doesn't go shooting anywhere. In that absolute worst case, I've got my leather gloves on, heavier gloves. I'm going to hang on to this tab here. And like I said, in the most likely case, this just makes no difference whatsoever. We don't see anything happen. But I'm going to have to hold this in really tight to try and get as much of that through as possible. And yeah, like I said, most likely case. So I'm really struggling for a solution here. Say the easiest alternative for me at this point is now to order a whole caliper from Japan for $500 or so and wait for it to get here for 2 months. Just have an inoperable vehicle, which is not ideal. The next is maybe talk to a machine shop here in town, see if they can get this extracted for me. I think that's the next step here. So unfortunately, it's a Saturday. All the good machine shops are Monday through Friday. So what I'm going to do is clean up my stuff, put away everything, and figure out who I want to talk to about this next week. Bummer. But to be continued. We'll get this undone. I'll get these put back together, and hopefully we'll be all set. All right. Time has gone by, and new things have happened. So where we left off, the calipers were partially rebuilt. Unfortunately, the second piston in each of the calipers wouldn't come out for me. So I did a little research, and I found a machine shop in town that was able to go ahead and remove them for me. in hindsight, they didn't do anything I couldn't have done. They just used some channel locks and really messed up the pistons on the way out. But I did tell them that the pistons were sacrificial. So, but they charged me a really reasonable price since it was so easy for them. So we've now got them out. Now I'm going to go through and do the rebuild process. So let me get some camera stuff set up here, and we'll get rolling. Okay, so where we're at here, this was one of the pistons that came out okay. You can tell because we don't have any like scuffs necessarily in here. Actually, no, here's one of the ones he pulled out, because right there you can see a pretty big gouge in it. So it's a good thing we have new ones. This is one that he also had to gouge on. And this is one he gouged on. And, oh, there you go. 1 out of 4 ain't bad. So those are all out. Now I've got a handful of tools here. So I've got a little screwdriver pick. This is going to be to pull out that inside seal. I'm really only using it because I have it. I could just use a regular screwdriver too, but I want to be careful not mess up stuff internally there. A couple other flathead screwdrivers. I have a thing of brake fluid. Yeah, you never use open brake fluid. I want to say that. But in this case, I'm going to use open brake fluid. And I'm using open brake fluid because all I'm going to use this for, you'll see when I get to it, is I'm just kind of lubricating everything as I put it together there. I'm not actually going to use this brake fluid for brake fluid. I'm going to flush the fluid in the car, and I'll use a sealed container for that. But I happen to have this around, and I'll use this open one just for that lubrication purpose. On the other I have is my 11 millimeter. I think I might also need a 10 to take these bleeder screws out and put the new bleeder screws in. Normally you'd use an open end wrench. This was just faster for me to get to. And I expect at least one of them to be pretty tight, so a ratchet will be nicer for that. So let's start by getting these fully disassembled. So doesn't really matter which one I start with here. So start with this one. Get the dust boot out. Really in there. Okay. And just like our other one, they have like this inner lip that goes inside there, and then this lip that goes around the piston. And this one's already out, so now looking at this internal guy here. So I'm just going to use my little screwdriver here to try and kind of pry on it a little bit to get it out of there. And what I'm being really careful of, now that I got that out, and I'm going to investigate this a little bit before I set it down. There really doesn't appear to be a top or bottom to this. Looks like it goes in just one way, which is easy for me. Well, the thing I'm being really conscious to do is I don't want to mess up the inside of this piston here. So I'm just feeling it with my finger, and it doesn't feel like I've got any gouges or rust or issues. So this is a good candidate for rebuild. So there's one done. Let's get the other one done. And make sure. Get this in there. Trying not to make contact with the inside of the cylinder. Alright, one completely disassembled. I say completely, I suppose I should take the bleeder out before I call that. Let's do it. I think this one was a 10. Let's use the right size tool for it. Criminy. There you go. Alright. One down. And then this one. This is the one, you can tell I Really tried getting it out, messing up, because this was the piston that was stuck. More dust seal out. And see if we can get this one. Let's see if I can capture this on camera. Kind of what I'm doing is just using my finger here to keep pushing it out of the spot that it's in, just to get it the rest of the way out. So use the screwdriver to just get a piece of it out, then gently use my finger to push it the rest of the way. Need to be more careful than that, almost scratching stuff up in here. There we go. So now it's out. Just use my finger to push it around, and it comes right out. Okay, so now, before I start putting new things in, I am going to use just a little bit of brake cleaner and a new rag to kind of clean these up just a little bit. So let me go grab that. Alright, so we're back with our brake cleaner and a shop towel here. And really, I'm just going to spray a little in there and then use this towel to wipe it through. So, if this is your first time using brake cleaner, let me tell you, it's nasty stuff. Don't get it on anything painted. Don't get it on anything that you value, because it just destroys stuff. So, it is a heck of a cleaner, but not something you want to just get on things. So I'll get this into some light. Just try and wipe everything out of there that isn't bare metal. Probably gonna need a few more rags because I can see I'm just pushing stuff around in there. Okay. So part of the reason I'm taking the bleeder out right now is I want to get as little resistance to me rebuilding this as possible. So by having the bleeder out, air can flow easily through. I'm not going to have any air compression sort of blocking me from pushing these pistons in. So bleeders are out. Let's start getting new parts in. So I already walked through the stuff that I got here, but so I've got 2 new dust seals, internal seal, should have another internal seal in here. All right, assembly, new piston, new bleeder screw, another, and let's get cap for the bleeder screw there. Okay, so now then, I'm going to take a little bit of brake fluid and I'm going to just rub it around this this inner seal. I'm going to try and get that inner seal back into its home. Oh my god, this is new. Well, it's okay. This is garbage stuff. So I'm still going to open it, even though I just told you guys how I'll use an open one. Well, this one's getting opened. So just get a little bit on my finger. This is kind of like if you've ever done a oil change. Kind of like how you lube up the O-ring on your oil filter. I'm doing the same thing here. I'm just lubing up the O-ring on my brake fluid or brake piston with brake fluid.
So there, I just felt that enter where it's supposed to there. And slowly just try and get it the rest of the way in there without getting any gunk in there, if I can avoid it. And that was easier than I thought it was going to be. So, gotta love that. Now then, I'm really not sure about the best way to do the piston and that dust boot. I'm not sure if I should try and put the piston in a little ways and then get the dust boot in. I feel like I should probably get the dust boot inner loop in there and then push the the piston in. Because I don't think I'm going to get it back in there once the piston's in there. So let's do that. I'm going to do the same thing here where I get a little bit of brake fluid on. And this one is just a dust seal, so the lube is probably actually not necessary. It's just to keep, this whole seal is just to keep dirt and junk from getting in there. So let's see if I can get this installed. Actually, now that I look at this, I think it's be easier to do this after. Oh God, I'm not sure. Just not sure. This is going to fit in there. If I put this on this to start, then how do I get this down in there? Let's see if I can get this through there. Yeah, no, that can't be right. I think it's got to go onto this first. So let's do that. This onto the piston. Good. And then now we'll install it. So installing the piston is a bit of a feel thing. It needs to go in straight. It won't go in sideways at all. And you're going to feel some resistance to it, but you just kind of got to keep going until you get it right. Hey, there it went. All right. So now we've got it in there. Now I'm going to try and get this dust seal in underneath. It might be easier said than done. I'll try and use this little wedge to help it in there. One other tip, you can probably see there's like this channel here. You can kind of fit your finger in back there to push on the back of the piston a little bit, but it's in there pretty solid. So I didn't want it to go all the way in there. I wanted it to be out a little ways, but now that I'm looking at it, I don't think that that would have mattered. So gotta see if I can get this back out without messing it up. Okay. We're going to call that one done. Great. One rebuilt. Now let's repeat. So, I think what we learned is there's a little bit of assembly lube on these already, so that's good. But the other thing we're going to do is shove this around like so, and then let the piston push it into the appropriate channel. So it's fighting a little more than I thought it would. This one really doesn't want to go the last little bit in there. I'm going to get a C-clamp, see if that'll persuade it. There it's at. Okay. Okay. There we go. Just needed a little more leverage. Alright. Okay. Let's put the... Okay. Now we clean up. So, I'll pick the video back up as I reinstall these and bleed the brakes, but there we go. We've got two calipers off, disassembled and reassembled, and this will be my front left one because the bleeder's up at the top there, and the front right one over there. Great. Okay, so now we're back at the Safari here. Got it jacked up on a very unlevel surface, not what you want to do, but it's safe enough. It'll be fine. So, we've got our rebuilt calipers now. Now the next thing to do is there's some portions of the rebuild kit that we didn't use yet. Mainly this little rubber guy right over here, and this rubber guy up here. So let's go ahead and do that. It also gave us a little bit of like assembly lube to put on there. So I'll use that, and we'll get rocking and rolling. So first things first, we'll go ahead and get these out. The top one is a little bigger than the bottom one, so you can't really mess it up even if you try.
Of course, I like screwed this one in a little bit, didn't I? What a dummy. All right. We'll get a socket out before we get that guy out of there. Okay. So I've got those out. Now I'll look at my new parts. So what's interesting is we've got two of these like longer ones and two of these like shorter ones, and these both look like shorter ones. So I'm gonna go look on the other side really quick, see if those are both longer in some way. Or is this one like feed all the way in there? I don't think so. So let me go look over there really quick. Let's see. No, I've got the same looking idea here, but we can see on this side, there's a long one that goes all the way through the inside there. So that's where our long one goes. Yeah, and same right here. This is actually rubber inside there. So, you know what? Sometimes good enough is good enough. And these seals don't look like they're letting anything in there. So I'm actually going to leave them. This is just not hurting anything. And I can always keep these in the toolbox if something changes, but I don't foresee that being a problem for me. So I'm just going to leave them be. One less thing to do. We've got this little bit of like assembly lube they gave us in each kit. Hopefully you can see it through my leg there. So I'm going to put a little bit of that on these like pad brackets. I shouldn't need it, but these are pretty crusty, and whenever I have to replace pads and rotors, it's going to be a pain. So since I should have plenty, I'll put a little bit on that, and then I'll put a little bit on each of those bolts, and we'll get our caliper installed. So really important that you pick the right caliper for the right side, and it's pretty easy to put them on the wrong side because they look basically identical. But the way that you can tell the difference, your bleeder screw always needs to be up, always needs to be towards the sky, because that's where we want all the air to come up through. So if you're starting to line things up and this thing's on the bottom or not, near the very top, well, you've got it on the wrong side. So better to figure that now than when you start bleeding or when you try to bleed and can't get the air out. So putting this on is essentially a reverse operation of what we did taking it off. So put this guy in there, get lined up with those, and put our bolts in there. So I said I was going to put some assembly lube on these brackets. Let me do that before I get that caliper in the way. Yeah, this is just general red assembly lube. So it's a good idea to like put it on your finger or something before you start putting it on stuff. But I've got a big old jar of this too. You buy one jar of it, and for a hobbyist mechanic like myself, that's about a 3 lifetime supply. So $8 well spent once, and who knows, maybe it's $50 now since we've had inflation, but I haven't had to deal with that yet since I bought it back when it was cheap. You should have gone back in time and bought it like I did. Alright, so now I'll go ahead and get the caliper back into place. Try not to mess up my rubber seals here that I decided not to replace. Good. Now we'll take our bolt, just kind of clean off the old lube that was on it, and we'll put on our new lube because new lube is better than old lube. And this thing got a real tiny hole in it, but go ahead and put this on pretty liberally. It's not going to hurt anything. If anything, just good to have good movement out of it. So, and since we had 2 kits, we have 2 of these little guys. Might as well use it all up. So there we go. Let's get a couple of threads in. We'll do our next one. Lube the bejesus out of it, because no reason not to. Okay. Get a couple threads going in there before I put a wrench on it. Good. And now let's start tightening it down. So hopefully, I don't know, it's going to fight me the whole way. So go ahead and put the ratchet on it. If you recall, when I took this off, it was really, really tight. You probably recall, because in YouTube Magic, that was only a few minutes ago. For me, it was a few days ago. So these don't need to be super tight. This is a 3/8 inch ratchet. It's not a half inch on impact or anything like that. You just need it to be snug. They're not going anywhere. So snug, and we're set. Get that extension out of the way. I'll do the same thing on this top one, which spins a little freer for us. Well, at least it did. Ding. Great. Caliper is in place. Now we need to hook up our brake line. So we will find our brake line that I left dangling around here somewhere. Right in here. And we're going to grab our brake line bolt out. I realize neither camera angle can really show you what I'm seeing from my face here, so I just apologize for that, but we're just backing out this brake line bolt by hand. Okay, so now then what we're going to do, hopefully this chest cam can kind of see it. If not, sorry, you'll have to imagine. But there's a little tab where the brake line bolt goes right here, and there's a little tab on the brake line itself that goes through there, and that's what keeps it centered as you tighten it down. So when you put the line on, you put it on so that little tab is going through this little eyelet there. So I've got it lined up in place there. Put the brake line bolt through it. This one again, it should seal fine. You don't need to over tighten this thing like it was when I got into this project. But we do need it tight, so you get it. I know, I just told you don't over tighten it, but you do need it tight. Sorry. You know, get it good and snug. Get it to where it's not moving anywhere, but don't use an impact on it, you know? That's your official TED torque spec. So what size was that? I think it was a 13. It was a 13. Okay. There you go. Good and tight. Okay. One down. Let's go over to the other side. Oh, actually, as long as I'm here, let's put our little bleeder cap on here, huh? I'm going to take it off in 5 minutes when we bleed these, but there you go. You can see what it's for. Okay. Other side. Alright, we're on the other side. We're going to do the same assembly lube stuff on the brake pad there. Same way, just put a little bit on our finger, then rub it in. And hopefully that makes my life easier someday in the future. Not holding my breath for it, but maybe. Now let's go ahead and place our new caliper in its home. One thing, this looked really easy compared to maybe some of the times when you try it yourself, and the reason for that is, we're using old brake pads here. When you have brand new brake pads and you, put new brake pads over new calipers where everything's as thick as it possibly can be, you might have a little more tightness to deal with there. The best advice I can give you on that is, don't force it, which maybe goes against what you would think, but just gently slide it. Make sure that your caliper or your pistons are all the way retracted in your caliper, and you shouldn't have any problems. Both of those are kind of on there. We'll get our ratchet, tighten it up. Now that our brake line is kind of wedged in a funny spot, probably should have pulled it out of the way before I put the caliper on, but we'll get it out of there. Yeah. And same deal, different side. We'll get our fingers out of the way and get our 13 on it, tighten it up, and we'll be set. Okay. Okay, so we've got both of our calipers uninstalled, disassembled, reassembled, reinstalled. Now we've got a whole bunch of air in our brake line, so we're going to bleed the brakes. You start farthest away from the master cylinder. So in this case, being a JDM vehicle, my master cylinder is on the right front hand side of the car. So we're going to start on the left rear side of the car to bleed, and then we'll work our way to the driver's side rear, then this front passenger side, and then front driver's side right next to the master cylinder. Okay, so we've got the hood popped now, and I just want to show, how do you identify where your brake fluid reservoir is. And like I said, it's always kind of right in front of the driver's seat. And this is my brake fluid reservoir in the Safari. And you'll generally see this big, cylindrical guy behind it. It's like your brake booster. And you can see here it shows like .3. That's a good indicator. Great, this is my brake fluid reservoir. So we'll just pop that open, and we're going to fill this guy up before we start bleeding. So just wanted to show where to find that. So we're at the passenger rear corner, or left rear corner in this case, since it's a right-hand drive vehicle. And I'm looking at my rear caliper here, and right here we can see my bleeder. So the first thing I just got some cheap vacuum hose or plastic tubing. I got this at the hardware store for it's like 19 cents a foot or whatever. So go buy a few feet and cut off what you need. And then a big old jug that I'm just going to pop the top off of. And then what I do is shove this guy onto the end of the bleeder, like so. And then shove the other end inside. And now we use an open end wrench, whatever appropriate size there is, to crack that guy open. So I will need help on this. So get yourself a slave, indentured servant, wife, whatever, and you're gonna have them go in and pump, hold, and then you'll crack this open when they're holding it down. This is a 13. There's no way that's right. Let's see. 12. Yeah, way too big. So here's a 10, which is pretty standard, although we know our new
front ones are an 11, which is annoying. But, you know, what are you going to do? You take the products you are given. So she's not holding on it right now. So the reason I'm doing this right now is just to break it loose. I expect that this thing's really, really tight. So I want to get it broken loose before I have her in there holding on the brake. Oh, man. Okay, I'm going to put a socket on it because I think that will give me better odds of getting it broken loose. So we'll take this off, get it out of the way, not let it drop in there. We'll go get a socket. Alright, we're back with a deep well 10mm socket on a adapter to a 3/8 ratchet, which you typically don't want to do, but I need something here. So it doesn't really want to bite on there. Okay, there it's on. Okay, let's go one piece at a time here, I guess. You can hear my creeper rolling all around him. Need more leverage on this thing. Okay. Man, I swear, I want to find the guy who worked on this last in Japan and just rip him a new one. Hoo-wee. Oh no. Oh no. I broke my tool. So there you can see the adapter broke off in the end of my socket. So I'll have to use a screwdriver or something to hammer that out. That's a valuable socket here. A deep well 10mm just got ruined. But you can see we clearly weren't going to get this guy loose with an open end wrench. So, you know, at least we have that taken care of. Alright. I might grab another socket actually to see if I can get this more loose, because this is just slipping off of it and that's not helping me. Actually, I decided to grab a closed end wrench, see if that works okay. Oh, that's just sliding over it. That's not good. Cripes, I might not have broken this thing loose. I might have just broken my tool. Oh no. Okay. Let's see if we can get a bigger 10mm on it. Alright. No other socket, but I did grab a hammer. See if I can get this busted loose. With some jarring motions here. Make sure it's on there. Okay, that moved a little bit. Okay. Come on. Hey, there we go. We got brake fluid coming out. That's good. It's not under pressure right now, so. Criminy, this thing's tight though. Golly. I don't love that. Don't love that I've got fluid coming out of it when it's this tight still, but, you know, what are you going to do? It is so tight that I'm going to actually put this on before I press my little line on it so that I can use it the closed end rather than the open end for bleeding. There you can see fluid going through our tube. Hopefully that comes up on camera. But I'm going to go ahead and close this off. That should be closed. And now I'm going to go get some help. Okay, go ahead and pump. Holding. Okay, go ahead and pump. All right, hang on a sec. I'm going to check the level again, and then I think we can move on to the next wheel. Yeah, go ahead and let go. Sorry. All right, now we'll move our attention to the driver's side right here. So, go ahead and pull this hose off. Let it drain into okay. And then loosen is going to be this way. So I'm going to put it on like so. No, I'm going to put it on like so. Here's my hammer. See if we can get this guy loosened up. Helps if you hit it. Okay. Okay. That is doable. So, okay. Get my hammer out of the way. Get my tube over here. Stupid. Wow. So getting the tube on when it's all nice and dry is of course really easy, but once you get it wet with brake fluid, everything gets slippery. Got the jug over here. Okay, ready? Are you ready to pump? All right, I'm ready. Hold. Okay, go ahead and pump. Okay, go ahead and pump. Okay, hang on. I'm going to add some fluid. Yeah, you can let go. Sorry. Okay, go ahead and pump. Okay, go ahead and pump. You on the floor? Okay, go ahead and pump. Okay, you can let go. All right, and since I didn't show removing the hose last time, just kind of wiggle it off and hold it up so that it all drains in. Release as much as you can. And take my wrench off, and we'll move on to the front. All right, ready to pump here. I'm ready when you are. Okay, go ahead and pump. Will you roll down this window? I can't hear you very well. Okay, you can let go and add a little more fluid. This feels like we're, adding fluid all the time, way too frequently, but the reality is the one thing we don't want to do is suck in air because then we have to start all over again. So
I'd rather pour way too much fluid in and stop too frequently than not stop enough. Go ahead and pump. All right, hang on a sec, you can let go. All right, go ahead and pump. All right, you can go ahead and let go. I'm going to move on to the last wheel. We'll put our little bleeder cap on since our new kit came with the bleeder cap, so fancy. So I put the bleeder cap on, and now to get it off, just have to use a little lip or a screwdriver or something like that. Oh, come on. Of course, I got it going and then let go. Great. Just set that there out of the way. Set that there. But should get that on there. Good. Make sure you guys can see all right. Oh man, you didn't see any of that. Oh no. Oh no. There you go. Now you can. All right. Add a little fluid before we go again. All right. I'm ready for you to pump. Go ahead and pump. Oh, you can go ahead and pump. Go ahead and pump a couple. Just how does it feel? Does it feel like?
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Not as loose.
Okay. Let's do a little bit more since we've got some more fluid to go through anyway. And yeah, go ahead and hold whenever you're ready. Holding. Okay, go ahead and pump.
Holding. On the floor.
Okay, one more time.
Holding. On the floor.
Okay, go ahead and just pump it. Let me know how it feels.
The first pump was a little looser, but all the other times it's loose.
Okay, I think we're good. I think we're done. So I'll top this, close it up, and then just got to put the wheels on and we'll be all set.